Hey, this is Cool Trains in Montreal, and I just wanted to show off a couple of my Via locomotives and a couple of my Via rail cars. These are passenger cars that I got over the years in different places and different times, and I'm just going to show some how well they run and some, well, they need a little work. So the first one I'll show here is this Via rail one. This is a P42. And it's just a joy to run. Look at that. Look at that pretty good slow speed. And I go on the other side of these Intermountain cars. These locomotives. And then here it comes again. This is the Via Rail P42DC. And it was offered by, Kato. And Kato makes these locomotives also in other paint schemes, mostly Amtrak, because Amtrak was the other railroad that had them. And I was really happy when Kato made this standard green version of it, just because now that you see them all the time. They're all the time everywhere in Montreal, and just about every Via train that's not the Rap, you get these green Via Rail locomotives. And yeah, eventually I'm going to hopefully get some Via Rail LRC cars to go with it. But in the meantime, I do have something that I can use with it. And that would be these Concore stainless steel cars. Now they come in the old blue scheme. Now the new scheme for these cars is the green like this. Or there's very few in the actual green. But they'll have also the two-tone blue and yellow. But they're pretty much the same cars. This representation would be like an HEP2 or an HEP1 car that would be purchased secondhand from American railroads, or in this case, with the solid blue, it would have been the original 1955 CP rail equipment, and that would be upgraded over the years. And I think the last upgrades were done in like 2013 or something like that. Maybe a little bit later, but these 1955 cars have been continuously worked on to the point where they're very modern, they're very comfortable, I'm sure. I haven't actually ridden in any of these cars, but they are still around, and even after Via gets their new equipment, I think they're still going to be on hand. So that's just a testament to how these stainless steel cars from Budd, that was the corporation name, stood the test of time. And here, this second one, this is a dome car. So, dome cars were very big in the United States, especially. In Canada, the only two railroads that would have had them, of course, would be CP and CN. CN had full-length dome cars that were secondhand from Milwaukee Road, and these ones would have been built, and it's a pretty good representation. The dome itself is exactly pretty much what the CP had in 1955. They're 1955 cars. So these Concore cars do a pretty good job, and you'll notice that they're close coupled. So they look very realistic together. You're just not going to see that in most N-scale stuff. And what's also interesting is that these Concore cars couple very well with the next set of cars that I have, which are the Rapido Trains, smooth side cars from the late 50s, late 59, maybe 60, 61. Actually, 1955, I think, because they came in a variety of paint schemes. CN had them first in the green and black, and then they went to this two-tone, this gray and black in 1961, which is the same as this locomotive here. And they were running in that scheme up until about 1976, at which time Via took over, and then Via started painting them in this color scheme, this blue and yellow, which I really love. And these are the trains basically from my childhood, when I used to go to Windsor in the wintertime to visit family. And we used to take these trains. This is the Rapido Train. Actually, that's what the name of the train was called. It was called the Rapido. The cars were called Rapidos. And they were basically smooth side versions of, I think it's ACF, American Car and Foundry, or Canadian Car and Foundry, I think was the Canadian version of that, which built these cars from the late 50s, 59 I think, or 58, up until maybe in the mid 60s they had stopped building them. But they were running in Canadian trains pretty much up until the early 90s before being retired. And they were very comfortable. The seats were nice. You had to kind of fight for a 4-seat in the middle because they were mostly 2 seats. And they had, I think, one, you couldn't at the time reserve seats either. So you just got on, and because we were a family of 4, we had to fight for those seats. So yeah, so that was the Via Rail locomotive. Now I'm going to show off the other cars and the other locomotives. Now these are Intermountain. These are FP7s. They kind of represent the FP9s or FP7s that Via Rail inherited as their first locomotives when they first took over in 1976. So these would have come from directly CN or CP. So we have the A unit. This is a 4-axle locomotive. And you would have seen these running around, especially as commuter locomotives in Montreal too later on. But they used to be in mainline service pretty much up until about 1990, I guess. They were being phased out once the LRC was come on board. So that's the A unit. Now this is the B unit. The B unit is just a locomotive, has no cab, and it's meant to be in the center. A lot of the time you would have a lash up of ABBA for the Canadian, which was the long passenger train service from Toronto to Vancouver, or from Montreal to Vancouver. And they would have the A unit, and then you'd have 2 B units, and then you'd have an A unit like this on the back. Myself, I bought this A-B-A combination, and I have enough cars actually to make a kind of a supercontinental train. That would be from CN, which would be a lot of these 1961 coaches that you saw earlier. And I'll just put one of them on the track now and run it. Now, Intermountain is nice. They make some really nice equipment. But it's not always the greatest thing when it comes to running. It's smooth now. Some of these locomotives, though, I think they need some servicing, because although this one seems to be running nicely now, it has made some strange noises. And when that happens, I just generally figure it's time to lubricate them. So they need some lubrication. This one is actually doing pretty well, considering that usually it makes a squealing noise. And at this speed, it's not making a squealing noise, which I'm very happy. But they look really great. It's a nice locomotive. I mean, in terms of detail, it's pretty good. And yeah, well, it's this one seems to be running pretty well, so I'm very happy that maybe it needs just to be broken in a little more. And maybe I'm hoping that that's the case, but I think a little lubrication with these locomotives would probably not be a bad idea. Yeah, here it is. You can hear that it's making that noise. So I'm figuring some lubrication on these locomotives is probably going to be due. But they do look really great. So I'm just showing them off here now for you. Yeah, let's slow that down a little bit. And what I'll do is I'll actually put the B unit on there. And I'll run it just an A-B combination. There we go. Oh, it's not quite on the track. There we go. So here's an A-B combination. Now again, this is what you get sometimes with Intermountain locomotives. I don't think this was properly, what do you call it? It wasn't probably properly lubricated. So I'm going to have to go and lubricate these locomotives. to get them to run properly. But I mean, they do pretty good. It's just that they'll really do a lot better once they've been lubricated. Yeah. So these aren't my only these are my only VL locomotives. These three plus that P42. In the near future, hopefully, I will be getting an F40PH in N scale that is being made by Rapido, and some LRC cars. Hopefully those will be really good, and hopefully they will come soon. So, as always, I want to thank you for watching, and I'd like to ask people, if you like what you see, to please subscribe to my channel, Cool Trains in Montreal. And if you have already subscribed, I'd like to thank you very much. 350 people have already subscribed to this channel, and I'm hoping that more people will follow suit and encourage me to do more videos and to work on this layout a lot more. Thank you very much, and have a good day.